if you have one way to save and invest for retirement, it should not be in your employer's 401k, and I'm going to tell you exactly why in this video. So now a lot of you are saving up money from your employers and your 401k is automatically being deducted from your check, and you're like, hey, I'm set for retirement. But if anybody knows anyone that experienced a crash in their 401k accounts during COVID, I have friends that lost about 30-40% of their income or their retirement savings through that. And yes, a lot of it has recovered, but the issue is if you lose 30 to 40%, if you lose 50%, I had someone that lost 50% in your account, it takes twice as long to gain that. So if it takes 10 years to double your account, a 50% loss can take 10 years to recover. And right now, a lot of people's accounts are up 30% over the last year, or last 2 years. But the issue is if they lost 40% of their account, it might take 3-4 years just to recover that back at this rate that this economy is growing right now. So how do we fix that? How do we get going? So the question is, what is a safe retirement method? What is the method that is not a scam? And you might hear this a lot. 401ks are a scam. It is made for your employees. I'm going to debunk that or tell you if that's actually the case in this video. Before we begin, it's good to know who started the 401k. The 401k was actually not started by the government. They had a tax code, something in the IRS set up to help people because they noticed that a lot of employers was offering like a pension account or retirement account to its employees. The issue is that they noticed that it was being taken advantage of, right? This tax deferred, people deferring some of their income so that they don't get paid taxes, is being taken advantage of by the executives in the company. So the executives who control the policy of the company, who control these investments and retirement accounts, we're doing it in such a way that the only people who really had access and who was really able to grow their wealth was, guess what? It was them. It was the people at the top of the company, the CEOs, the CFOs, the managers, and those people, probably the people already making $200,000, $300,000 a year that don't need the retirement account. They already set up, but they were taking advantage of it and the IRS stepped in. And in 1978, I believe, the IRS made a whole new tax code to really help alleviate that and to make sure that the low-level employees were getting access to this as well. Ted Benner is actually the founder of what is the modern 401k. What a 401k is actually named at is actually the tax code section 401k. So that's where we get the term 401k with our employers. If you don't know what a 401k is, it is an account that your employer can set up for you to get automatic withdrawals from your check that can be taken out pre-tax or post-tax, even though the most common one is going to be pre-tax. And that means you get taxed less when it comes to your income coming into your pockets. This gets deferred so that you can pull it out after you turn 69 or if there's a hardship. Sometimes you can pull it out early, but there's a penalty. But ideally it's set up so that you can take out of it after you turn 69, after you stop working. And so the reason why Ted Benner is considered the 401k godfather or the father of the 401k is because in 1978, he noticed what was in the IRS's tax code. And he said, how can I implement this as a plan? Or because I believe he owned an insurance company and he had some high level companies that he was like, hey, how can I help them out as a client to do this retirement plan where it saves them money, it saves the employees money, it helps people overall, it helps people better increase their finances, the company and the employee itself. And he decided, hey, let me come up with the idea of this modern day, and he came up with the modern day 401k. The issue is that the first few companies that he pitched it to, the client said no because they had never seen anything like that. Mind you, the IRS just did this law a year earlier. So a lot of companies didn't enact it because now their top employees aren't getting the benefit and now they're having to reap some of the costs from their regular employees. And so they didn't want to do what Ted Benner said. So what he decided to do is he decided to put it in his own company to allow his employees of his Johnson company to use it. What ended up happening is through some connections, he was able to meet the treasury or the secretary of the treasurer, and he was able to show it to them. And they saw how it was working in his company over the next year, and they looked and deep dived into it. It was like, you know what, this is actually a good thing. So what they decided to do is actually make it an official law, put it in the tax code. I believe it was 1979 or the early 80s, and that implemented that. Let me backtrack a little bit. Before that, what ended up happening is after some companies saw, like the IRS was looking into it, saw how his company was doing it, some of his clients also started to add it to their plans as well. And then after the IRS put it into proposal for everybody across the nation, then that's when a lot of employers started to actually offer it, because it benefited them and it benefited the employees as well. Now, the issue is that he had good intentions, but companies don't always have the best intentions for their employees. And he's even come out and said, Ted Bennett, the father of the 401k, has even said, I'm gonna read what he said based on what the Daily Mail and Yahoo Finance when he interviewed. I am very disturbed by what's happening with investment expenses. He originally said that when he came up with the idea that employers were supposed to cover all the expenses, the administrative fees. And now they're giving that administrative fees to the employees itself rather than them taking it. And the reason why people will say 401ks are a scam, and I would kind of agree on it, is because you can get a lot better results investing on your own. There's multiple reasons. We're gonna break down probably about 3 reasons. I haven't counted them, but we're gonna count them here. The first reason is that they defer a lot of their fees onto you, the employee. Now, you might not notice, but your 401k has a fee that gets taken out every year. And the reason why you don't know this is because you're probably investing money over time. So you don't notice that that small fee is being taken out, because what you're putting into it is way more than that fee. Now, the fee is not that much. The fee is averaging 0.5 to 2%. He's seen as high as 2.75%. Larry Fink has as well. If you don't know who Larry Fink is, I'll go into him later. But they've seen fees as high as 2.75. And you might be like, oh, that's only $1 for every $100 I put in. They're making good investments. They're getting me 10%, 11%. But it adds up. Let me just show you this calculator, right? And I actually learned this, I guess, from Ramit. It might have been Stephan as well. And then the Dave Ramsey I watch as well, because people always talk about that. Dave Ramsey recommends mutual funds rather than like ETFs and index funds. And this is what a mutual fund is. A 401k is made up of mutual funds. And so let's look at this calculator. So let's use Charles Schwab's Schwab MoneyWise investment calculator. This investment calculator is different because it calculates your fees, right? So let's say you start with $1,000 a month for 39 years. So you're 30 years old, you're gonna retire at 69, and you contribute $250 per month. Your rate of return is the average of 10%. So from 8 to 12% of the S&P 500, that middle ground is 10%, where most people get that from. Your first investment fee is 0. So you don't have no fee at all. Now your mutual fund, which is what your 401k is made of, your mutual fund, and fun fact is Warren Buffett actually made a 10-year bet that his index funds can outpass the returns of a mutual fund, and he actually won that $1 million bet. I don't know how much he won, but it didn't matter because he's multi-billionaire. But this is something that even Dave Ramsey says, and his crew says, mutual funds over index funds and ETFs. But they get charged fees. And the fee, like I said, it ranges from 0.5 to 2%. So we're gonna just start at 0% and a 1% fee. At 0% with those numbers I just gave you, you would have $1.3 million saved up at the end of 39 years when you retire. Now the issue is that if you have a 9% return, so you lose 1% due to your fees, you are now out $309,000. So now you're retiring with $1 million. Not 1.3, $1 million and some change. That's 30% of your difference. 30% you just lost, just because you got charged a 1% fee. And before this, you might have been like, that 1% is not nothing. You probably didn't even notice it because you're contributing more than that 1% into your account. You're contributing $250 every month. You don't notice it. You don't read your breakdowns. You just see the number that's increasing and you're like, I'm good with that. 1% fee, $300,000. Now let's just change that to, because they've seen as high as 2.75, but the average is going to be 1%. So we're just going to do 2%. Let's say you have a 2% fee, your mutual fund, your administrative fees, and your service fees charged, because they do charge multiple fees. They charge the mutual fund itself, whoever's managing that mutual fund is charging 1%. And then you have administrative fee, which your employer charges you just for running the brokerage and the HR support. And then you have service fees, which is if you're trading stuff, if you're withdrawing early, you get charged penalties and fees. But let's say it's a 2%. That 2% now takes out $542,000 out of your account. So now rather than having 1.3 or 1 million, now what you end up having is $767,000. 542. I don't know what the math on that is, but that seems that it's about 35 to 40%, probably 40% of your net worth gone just because of a 2% fee you're being charged. This adds up. My one tip here is to invest up into your employer's 401k match. So if it's 2%, match 100%, 4% at a 50%, so 2%, match up to that, and then do not contribute anymore because your fees are going to be ridiculous. The issue is that when you have an employer match, that's already 100% return on your investment automatically. That's automatically a 100% return on your investment. So just losing 1%, you're basically at 99%. So anything more than that, and you're actually losing yourself money. This brings into my next tip is going to be 401ks. There's a copycat to that charges no fees at all. It's called an index fund. It's called an ETF. Now, rather than getting charged a 401k scam fee, just do it on your own. You can even go into Fidelity and you can automate it. You can invest in QQQ. You can invest in some Vanguard fund, and you can set up the same account, yet you're getting 1% fee negated. That is saving you $300,000 to $542,000 by the time you retire. That is a lot of money. For some of you, that is going to be the price of your home alone. So just invest in that. There's some other creators that made videos. I might make a video on that. Let me know. And by the way, you might have noticed that I'm covering up with 2 mics. Only one is blinking because only one is working. I just don't want to promote this. I'd rather promote Javi. So I'm actually working right now. I do that late night shift, which is how I'm able to make these videos. And I have to have some coffee on deck, and this is the easiest thing. I can just store it in the fridge back there. Yeah, 35 servings. It actually comes out to, I'm on my Stephan wave. It comes out to 57 cents per serving. I paid $20 for that. 35 servings, that's 57 cents. But if you're like me and you double up on your coffee, you want it to be stronger, it comes out to $1.14. That's way better than me going down there and buying Pete's coffee or the Costa coffee from the machine for $2.50. So I highly recommend getting you some coffee. If you want some Javi to get you through your work day so you can also focus on these investments, click the link down below. But let's get back. Number 3 on why I would say 401k is partially a scam is because BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, if you don't know BlackRock, that's the people that own majority stake in Walmart, your biggest companies. They are a hedge fund. They make tons of money. These are the people that lost a ton of money on GameStop and forced GameStop to shut down. So multi-billion-dollar companies, and the CEO is a billionaire himself. So basically, he said that we need to start rethinking our retirements. Americans need to start rethinking their retirement. This is the person who runs your 401k, who runs the mutual funds that you invest in your 401k. And he's saying that we need to rethink retirement accounts. You should listen to this. One of the people that's controlling majority of Americans' 401k and retirement accounts is saying that we as the US need to rethink our investment and retirement accounts. So that tells you a good amount of things. And I think this is for multiple reasons. I think when people get a retirement account set up through their job, they also don't take the time to learn about finances, right? A lot of people, family members of mine, don't know how much they're bringing in on a return on their 401k. You have apps now that are being developed that can search out there in the Google, in the interwebs, and find missing 401ks and tell you if you're missing money. If you can lose money because you don't remember you invested in a 401k at a past job, that tells you something. That friend that lost 40 to 50% of his retirement during COVID, if he knew that he can control his 401k funds himself, he probably could have negated that. He could have pulled money out, not pulled it out of the 401k itself, but switched it out to something safer, into some bonds or treasuries, and missed on the loss of his capital gains in that regard. There are laws being passed right now that should set people up to just take the money out automatically out of their paycheck to get them to retire, because a lot of people nowadays in corporations don't get money taken out until years later, and they missed on all of that appreciation and the compounding effect, which I'm for in a way. Obviously, there are going to be some people that don't realize this and are complaining or don't know and that really need the money, so it's more of a hassle for them. But for majority of people, it's a good thing to do. The issue is that people don't realize that within your 401k, you have a Roth 401 and you have a regular 401. Just like when you have your retirement accounts, when you go set up that index funds, you have a regular IRA, and then you have a Roth IRA. And a lot of people don't realize that they can contribute pre-tax or post-tax. Most people are just doing pre-tax, and they're like, oh, this lowers my tax bill. Yes, but when you take that money out, now you have to pay money at your current tax rate, even in retirement. You don't get charged a penalty, but you have to take money out and it's taxed on that. The issue is that when you switch to a Roth 401k, which is what I do, and I have Roth IRAs as well, you take your post-tax, you get tax on it. It comes out, taxes come out your paycheck on the $500 you submit every month. The difference is when you go to withdraw it, when you retire at 69, there's no taxes, it's tax-free. Why would someone do this? The reason someone would do this is because hopefully you're like me and you expect your income to go up as you're working. I expect my income to go up. I don't expect to make less money. I expect to make more money. Now, if you're planning on moving, changing jobs, going to part-time, that's a little bit different. But if you're planning to make more money to get a senior position, to open up a business, and now your tax bill is way higher, a Roth is gonna be your way to go, because I'd rather get taxed now at my, 14%, I think I'm getting charged now, living in Seattle, Washington, rather than getting taxed my 20-30% when I plan to be making millions a year, or even if I'm just making $200,000-$300,000 a year. And that might not happen, but I know I'm gonna be making more what I'm making now. So I'm gonna be getting taxed more. And then with the way economy is going, taxes might increase as well. So I'd rather just take that 13-14% out now, rather than maybe later to be like, hey, we're gonna double taxes in 20 years. I don't want that to happen. So a lot of people do not know that. A lot of people don't know what's going on in the accounts. They don't know the fees that are getting charged as well. And I think 401ks are actually making people less financial savvy. People just think, oh, it's prepared, I'm planning. And this happened with pensions as well. People just hoped on the pensions. A lot of companies' pensions went away. Right now, Social Security is going away, and people just banking on that, and then something happens. What if the economy crashes? What if tax laws change and you don't know, you're not prepared because you haven't taught yourself financially, because you're like, hey, someone else is handling that for me? You are screwing yourself over. And now I do think 401ks are helping a lot of people in ways, but I do think they're scams because they actually make people financially less literate, and they actually take big chunks of money from people that they can do themselves, or they can pay someone hourly $200-$300. It's probably smarter for you to pay someone once a year $100, maybe $200 every 2-3 years, rather than paying this 1% fee every single year. And before you say, hey, I'm already at a job, I already have, what do I do? You can take your money out of your 401k and roll it over into an IRA and don't get charged taxes. You can also just open up a Roth IRA or IRA yourself. You don't have to worry about that. Like I said, if you get an employee match up to the match, and then anything extra, you invest in your own IRA, you invest in your own Roth IRA. So yeah, those are going to be the reasons why I think 401ks are a bad investment for most people, outside of those that get an employer matches. The biggest thing is going to be the income that it takes away from you at retirement is astronomical, and you would never just give someone that. A lot of people hate paying taxes, and they're taking more fees out than the IRS would even take from you anyway, so why would you even do that? Second one is going to be, it's making people financially illiterate. Those are going to be the biggest ones from the 4 that I gave you. It's just those 2 in general, because even if you work on your own financial literacy, you probably will know this yourself. Or you'll probably figure out that real estate is the way I need to go, or I need to start a business, I need to invest that extra money into a business, rather than letting it sit in a 1% fee 401k. Now, some of the benefits, like I mentioned, is that you have a 401k match from your employer, so that is going to be astronomical in making sure your gains compound and grow 100%, 50% is even good as well, but no more than that. The other thing is going to be, you can take loans out against your 401k. And a lot of people say don't take a loan out, but if you're trying to get real estate investment or start a business, sometimes it might be easier for you to just take the loan out from your 401k if you can't get a loan from another means, or you get into financial hardship, so you don't get that penalty from withdrawing early. You can just take the loan out. If you have a self-directed IRA, or you have a Roth IRA, or you're just invested in stocks or something like Robinhood or Webull, then you can't really take a loan out. And if you do take a loan out, you're getting charged a really high fee, and you have to go find the company and search and do all this digging. So with the 401k, as long as you're still at the job, you can take a loan out that takes you 3 to 5 years to repay the loan, just from automatic deductions from your paycheck. And then the last one is, if you're one of these people like Dave Ramsey talks about and why he recommends mutual funds, and you don't have the time for this, you don't have the headspace, the knowledge, you aren't capable of understanding investing, then just go use your 401k. But all it takes is 30 minutes a week, 30 minutes every 2 weeks, an hour a month or something like that, just to learn basic investing principles. And that is going to teach you a lot more and allow you to unlock greater potential for your money than just by dishing it off into a 401k. hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, you learned a lot from this video. And if you're one of those people that's getting eaten up by these fees, go start a new account. If you want to use my webull link, webull is actually giving 3.5% matches. Places like Robinhood and I think Acorns as well gives like between 1% and 3% matches for your transfers from your IRAs or your 401ks, which you can do pretty easily without really getting a fee. They match that, so automatically that's already matching inflation, and then you don't get charged that 1% fee. So with that 3% match and then that 1% negation, by the time you end, when you retire, that might be an extra $500,000, $600,000, $700,000. So look into those matches. If you want the links to webull, Acorns, Robinhood, I'll post the best sign up bonuses down below. Go check them out. Or you can just go and sign up for your own IRA or Roth IRA on Fidelity Investments or eTrade. I personally have eTrade in the past, but right now I use Fidelity, I use Moomoo, I use webull, and I use Robinhood for all my investing things. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and you catch one of these other videos on how to fund your own self-directed IRA using bank sign-up bonuses, using side hustles and side gigs. All those videos will be posted. Make sure you go watch that, and then make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications.